We're lucky in Europe. We get all of the hot hatches. We get small, light sports cars. We even get manual diesel estates. We've only really just got the muscle car. Ford's brought the Mustang over for us lot to play with, but we don't really have anything that screams America. So I've come to America to find the most American of all the American cars. I've got myself a Hellcat.
It looks quite subtle, very American obviously. It's also vast, roughly the size of an Audi A8, a car that you can quite happily get lost in the back of. Unless you know what you're looking for, you won't really notice it in a car park. It'll be an anonymous blob surrounded by other similar looking anonymous blobs.
Until you turn it on, you see the Hellcat's headline figures, well, they're going to mean some noise. It's got a 6.2 litre supercharged V8 that cranks out 707 horsepower and 650 pound-foot. Now, to put that into perspective, well, an Audi S8 Plus gets around 600 horsepower and costs almost £100,000, whereas the Hellcat costs around £52,000.
So far as power per pound goes, it's a good deal, but what about its actual performance? Well, Dodge says it'll crack 60 from rest in around 3.7 seconds, and that its top speed is 204 miles an hour for £52,000. Okay, you have my attention.
The brakes are pretty beefy. The 15.4-inch 6-pot Brembos fitted up front are apparently the biggest Dodge has ever fitted to a car, which is a good thing, considering all the power, the speed this thing can do, and the fact it weighs around 2 tons. Dodge has also fitted 3 adaptable spring modes, Auto, Sport and Track. Guess which one I'm in today? Now, being a typical Brit, it's time to do the typical Brit in an American car thing. So, the exterior design, it's a bit boring. It's kind of beefy, but kind of not. Same goes for the interior. There's nice bits to it, but the plastics are a bit nasty, and the infotainment system, there's too many buttons to it. There are some cool bits, like it'll show you how many horsepowers and torques you're using, and you can press buttons to adjust the settings for your comfort or the circuit, and that's kind of cool.
However, being all British about things is pointless here. This is pure unadulterated muscle. It's a wantonly stupid thing with more power than a Ferrari 488, an Audi R8, Lamborghini Huracan and all those cars. In fact, it's approaching Ferrari F12 power, but it can seat 5 people and take their luggage.
Now that all sounds pretty good to me. Now, I always said that the perfect car never existed. You see, it'd have to do over 100 mpg, 0 to 62 in less than 5 seconds, fit a flat pack wardrobe in it and look incredible. Now, the Hellcat doesn't look all that good and the MPG is absurdly bad. So how does it stack up? Well, I've talked about the look and the infotainment and all that, so let's just talk about the driving experience. If you drive it steady, it's actually quite placid. You can, if you're careful with it, drive it around town without any consequence. You know, while I'm doing this talky bit, we're not going hell for leather and it's okay. But there is this big but. Much like a Bugatti Veyron, if you just roll your foot onto the throttle a little bit more, you don't realise just how fast you're going. All of a sudden you look down, you're doing 80, 90, 100 miles an hour. It gathers pace quite subtly if you're not paying attention. However, if you are, the power delivery is simply explosive. The rears simply can't handle the power because there's way too much of it. Same goes for a corner. If you go in and put a little bit too much power down, it will just oversteer everywhere. All it wants to do is go sideways. And the good thing is it's actually quite controllable because it's so big. You can kind of pin it and keep it nice and crossed up and make lots of smoke and have lots of fun with it. In track mode, the 8-speed automatic gearbox is really aggressive. So if you give it a little bit of go and then upshift, it jerks you forward. It feels properly beefy, like you're actually doing a large amount of work, which really with the torque it's got to deal with, it's quite violent, it's quite visceral. It makes the car feel, well, really quite aggressive, but it's not perfect. The suspension, it's a bit soft, so you feel the car roll into a bend. It rolls so much. Great for the street, fantastic for the street, but on the circuit where we are, not great. And then you put the brakes on. And because this thing weighs so much, because it's so heavy and it's so softly sprung, it leans on its nose and you feel the whole car pitch forward. And they do fade after a while. There's not much there, but thankfully they work because up front they are enormous. That said, I strongly suspect they're made of paper. Now the steering, apparently it's connected to the wheels, but I'm not entirely sure how because there's no real feel at all. When you turn it, the car also turns, but I have literally no idea what the front wheels are doing. I'm just kind of guiding myself by hope. It's a deeply, deeply flawed car. It's enormous, it's soft, it's spongy, it can't put its power down, and it's just, oh, so willfully stupid. But the noise and the power, I can't help but absolutely adore it. Like, I should hate it, and it is terrible, but it's also, because of the silliness, fantastic.
There's no European car truly like the Hellcat, and there simply can't be either. The Germans would panic about power delivery, comfort, interior quality and all the stuff that we complain about on American cars. Vauxhall does something similar with the VXR8, I suppose, but how many of those do you see around? Depressingly, we just don't buy stuff like this.
So let's run through the Hellcat, shall we? It's not very pretty, the materials inside are pretty terrible, the steering is inert at best, the suspension is saggy and it can't put any of its power down. So objectively, it's awful. However, it's because of that last point, because it so hilariously wants to spit noise out of its back and slide everywhere, well, it's the reason I really quite like it.
Hello, did you enjoy that video? I sincerely hope you did. And you fancy a little bit more Carfection in your life today, because if you want to see our next video before it goes live here on YouTube, you can click right here to go to carfection.com where it's waiting for you right now. As usual, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video and, if you haven't already, to subscribe to the channel, which you can do by clicking here.